Good evening. Welcome to another edition of the 411 Talk Zone radio show right here on YouTube. My name is Leon Jones. And I got another video for you. Uh, I'm not going to do the scam series tonight, but I am going to do an important topic. And it's been talked about here on YouTube. And it's about passports. So the title of this video is Nothing Wrong with Getting a Passport. It's nothing wrong with getting a passport. Now, as I look at YouTube, you have a number of individuals who are upset at Black men getting passports. Now, Black women have been getting passports for years, but Black women always go to those countries that have a lot of tourism. White men have gotten passports for years. Now, I will say this though. If you're going to get a passport, you're going to travel, do not throw it up in any individual's face. This is the same thing I would say if you had someone who got a college degree and someone who did. Now, it doesn't make you any better than somebody else because you have a passport. Now, I know you hear the term the passport bros, and shout out to the passport bros. This is not a slap to you, but I'm doing this video basically for individuals who are thinking about getting a passport. Now, I have a passport. Passport is a good piece of identification. But here's something you need to know about going over to other countries. Now, I served in the military for 17 years and I've been to other countries. Now, first of all, when you travel, women shouldn't be the first thing that you are looking for. It's nice to have them, but that shouldn't be the first thing on your mind. Think of this. If you were moving from one state to another, although it's in the same country, you don't know anything about that state, especially if you hadn't been to that state. Well, when you get your passport, you need to understand number one, the country that you're going to. Now, I was in the Navy and we just hit a lot of ports, but we didn't stay there too long. We didn't stay there too long because our cruise was 6 months and we were allotted to stay at ports for a certain amount of time, up to 2 weeks. Now, I will say this about going to other countries. First of all, this is why I travel. And everybody's got a different preference. I travel for the culture, the history, the architecture, and the food. That's why I travel. You didn't hear anything about finding a wife or women or anything like that. Now, I know you have some of the passport pros, and I hope they find what they're looking for because you're going to another country. Many of you don't know the culture. And one thing you must understand about other countries compared to the United States, other countries have a collectivist point of view, where the United States has an individualist point of view. So let me tell you this. When you travel to another country, and if you're going to look for a woman, must understand that Wherever you go, a number of these women are very, very family oriented. It's hard to get a woman away from her family to move with you who's from another state. So you got to look at how it's going to be if you're trying to get her from her country to the United States, or are you going to bring her back to the United States? Now, number of passport bros, they don't want to bring a woman back to the United States. Why? Because there is a Marxist feminist point of view, and there is a disrespect for men here in the United States. However, I will say this: there are areas in the United States that you can find decent women. You just have to stay out of the urban and suburban areas. Why do I say that? Because number one, that's where your tourism is. Most of your populated areas is where all the shopping, all the materialism, it's in the urban and suburban areas. So you have to look at the mindset of the individuals you're meeting if you are looking for a woman here in America or overseas. Now, let me get back to overseas. When you go overseas, I just want to tell you this, whether you're a passport bro or not, first thing you need to understand is, and it's very important, the government. Okay, I will tell you this. Everybody does not have a government that is a democratic republic. In other words, we have freedom, but we also have laws. You have some countries out there that are communist, like China. You have Cuba. You have some countries in Africa. They have dictatorships. So if you do something in another country and it's against the other country's laws, you're going to rot in jail for a while. The systems in other countries aren't the same. So you need to understand how the government functions. You also need to understand the other country's economy. And what I mean is this. Okay, I know in some areas, the cost of goods and services are cheaper than others. I can tell you, if you go over to Europe, Western Europe, it's a lot more expensive than if you go over to Ukraine and some of those other areas. But understanding how their system works is going to be a big advantage. In other words, let's look at some of the countries out here. You have some countries that have a socialist system, like Sweden. You have some that have a communist system, like China. Now, again, traveling is good, but you need to know why you're traveling. And I just believe in getting to know the country for the culture, the architecture, the food, and the history is going to be the best thing. Because, okay, if you're in another country, and I know I watch Amazing Race, most individuals don't know where they're going. And I'm going to tell you this, when I was in the Navy, other countries knew we were coming. So you know what other countries would do when we pulled in? They jacked the prices up for everything. I can remember some of my shipmates getting in a cab, and this is not an exaggeration. They would actually go a half a mile and pay $100. Well, bottom line is, because they were American, they didn't know it. But I know they try to jack up the prices. You also have to understand that there's crime in other countries. I had a master chief when I was in the Navy. We were in Spain, Barcelona, Spain. He had $1,000 in his back pocket. And I always tell people never to carry your money in your back pocket. And some of these countries have kids, and some of these kids will surround you. They like to play around with you. But what they're doing is They're going into your pocket to get your wallet. Well, Master Chief, he got pickpocketed $4,000. So you have to understand the laws of security over there. You have to understand that every country has crime. Every country has bad people. Also, get a map when you go over to other countries. Don't get your passports. I'm just telling you how to do it so you can understand what's going on, because some of you do get up here and talk about going overseas like it's that easy. It is not. First of all, you have to have the money to go overseas, and most of the brothers, they're going to be here because they don't have the money to travel overseas. Some of them can't even get a passport because they owe child support. Some of the women, yes, even with passports, they have so much debt they can't afford to go on a cruise because they're paying for the last cruise that they just came off of. Also, something you need to know: emergency. Well, where are you going to go for a hospital? What happens if you're sick? Do you know their health system? When it comes to police, do you know where the police station is? I mean, again, when it comes to going to another country, you have to be prepared. And then can you get back? Well, there was a guy who went to the Dominican Republic who was here on YouTube. He went overseas and he was begging to get back. And when you go to another country, do you like that other country? Is it going to be a place where you're going to return for another travel adventure? Are you looking to move to that country? All I'm saying is, when you get your passport, do some research in these countries. I know people love to go to Colombia, but where are they going in Colombia? You know, I hope most of you, if you're traveling to Brazil and Colombia, you're not going to the gut. Now, my humble opinion is, if you're going to go to another country, go out to the country. I'm going to tell you why. Because you will really understand the culture when you get around the locals. And the locals really don't live in the urban area. That's where all of your tourism, that's where all of your money is. They live out in the country. And I'm going to tell you something. They do things a little different in the country. Some of them still use oxes to till their land. Some of them, when they cook outside. And let me tell you something too. You have to understand the currency. You have to understand what you're eating. Okay. Every country doesn't eat the same thing that we eat. In fact, I watch a lot of cooking shows. You got some countries, they eat spiders. This is no lie. It's a delicacy to them. They eat escargot, they eat cobra, well, they even eat rattlesnake. Here, I've even had rattlesnake. Actually, rattlesnake is relatively good. It tastes like chicken. Some of them eat kasamasu. You don't know what kasamasu is? I'll tell you what kasamasu is. It's cheese infested with maggots. Now, it's illegal here, but it's a delicacy in, I believe it's in Cartagena, which is outside of Italy. I've been there. It's an island just in the Mediterranean, south of Sicily. Now, how do I know where all these countries are? Because I've been there. I know what the streets are like. Now, yes, when we went to some of these countries, we were treated pretty well, like dignitaries. However, we were only treated well because our welcome was short. We didn't stay there a long time. And when it comes to America, there's some countries that don't approve of Americans. They don't like our way of living. They don't like our government. But what I'm saying is, you're going to go travel. And I don't like to use the term passport bros. I'm just going to say, if you're going to go traveling, you really need to also watch the weather. Now, you might think I'm crazy as hell for saying all this. Many people don't understand the types of weather. If you go into the Pacific, a lot of volcanoes, monsoons, earthquakes. If you go into the Arctic Circle, places like, it's not too many people in Greenland, but you got a few people in Iceland and Amsterdam. Sometimes they got cold winters, the days are long, especially in the Arctic Circle. It's cold, bitterly cold. You got to know where the shelter is when it gets cold. You got to know how to dress. Also have to understand the currency. How much can you get if you trade in your money? And then you must understand too, if you come back, you're gonna have to go through customs and TSA. Even if you take a cruise, you might not have to use TSA, but you're gonna have to go through customs. You also have to understand what it is to be an American in another country. Be American, you can't go over there to be rambunctious. You see, if you go to jail in a place like Turkey, you watch a movie, The Midnight Run, and you'll find out what I'm talking about. Jail is not the same thing. You don't lift weights, you don't watch cable, you don't play basketball. When you go to jail, you go to jail. Over in Africa. And I believe there's some places where they still stone you and cut hands off. So you need to really understand your surroundings, and you need to know something about the country, know something about the people. If you really want to find someone in another country, one of the best things you need to do is you have to constantly travel back to that country. But you shouldn't go to another country just for a woman. Let that be last on your list. Understand that if you're looking to spice up your life with some traveling, you really, really need to understand the country itself. Heck, many of us, we go from state to state. I guarantee a lot of us don't even study the state we're moving to. Hell, we don't even know the state we're in right now. I mean, if you're going to be doing any type of traveling, whether it's in-continus, which is in the continental United States, and out-continus, which is out of the continental United States, you need to know about the areas somewhat. Now, you're not going to be an expert until you've actually spent some time there. But the bottom line, when it comes to traveling, I'm just giving you some insight because I've been to these cities. Yes, you might have individuals that treat you real well, but you got scammers in other countries as well. And you have other countries, believe it or not, for you guys who are looking to find a wife, some of that Western philosophy has taken place in other countries. Why? Social media is just not here, it's global. You just have to interact with individuals who don't get into social media as much. Social media, you have feminism. And I can tell you, I've been to the Caribbean myself. The Caribbean is it's more of a tourist attraction. Now, if you want to go to a United States territory, I would go into the Pacific, somewhere like a Guam or in America, Samoa. Why? Okay, Guam and American Samoa, they have military bases. They have a decent sized population, but you have a culture over there that has different nationalities. And also, that's another thing too. Don't think that they don't have racism or prejudice in other countries either. They do. You have to know what you're getting into when you're traveling overseas, especially with a passport, because everything sounds so good on YouTube, but when you actually do it, it's going to be different. Yeah, in other words, you got to put some work into it if you want to make it work. You have to have the money to travel. And many people don't have the money to travel. Heck, many people don't have enough money to leave their own house, leave their own block, let alone travel to another country. Now, again, if you're traveling, let's say if you're looking for somebody, if you're doing it for the right reason, that's fine. But if you're just going overseas just to hang out in the gut, you're wasting your money. You can do that here because listen, you're going over there to the gut, spending your money. Those gals over there, they're used up too. So the same gals that you're talking about here, they're giving you a reason to go. You're running into the same thing if you go into the gut of some of these other countries. Now, again, I'm going to say this, and I've been overseas. You got to get away from the urban areas. Also, watch the Travel Channel. Watch National Geographic. Uh, Chef Gordon Ramsay, when he travels to other countries, he's not traveling to the urban areas. He's traveling to people that are locals, and they have a way of doing things. And one thing that I look at is, since I like cooking, how they cook their food, what they're eating, what their delicacies are. Also, you have to understand too, look at religions. I know over in Morocco, here's one thing I will tell you. I believe that Moroccans, a number of them are, I don't know if uh, they are Muslim. Some of them don't get involved with Christians. They don't. They're very religious. You have to understand the religions. So, in other words, just to wrap all this up, it's great traveling overseas. I know some of you guys, you're going over there. You're looking for somebody to be in your life. That's fine. I'm not telling you not to do it. Well, I'm just giving you some pointers before you do it, so you don't end up dead like some people did in the Dominican Republic. In fact, I wouldn't even go to the Dominican Republic. I wouldn't even go to Jamaica. I'd stay away from those areas. And again, if you're going to go traveling, you can get involved with the culture. That's how you learn it. And also, what about language? Some people don't know the language. What about the education system? What about the media over there? What about the music? This is all part of the culture. If you're going to travel overseas, you need to know something about the country. You do. Get a map. See different points of interest. And don't always go to the tourist areas. Now, I will say this, it's always best. That's why I say get involved with the country. Go with a peer if you have to. Now, then, if you like it, get involved with the community and you can trust people. Okay. You can go by yourself. But I'm just saying, you need to know where the banks are as well. Again, going back, you need to know where the hospitals are. You need to know where the grocery stores are. Okay. You need to know where the good hotels are. because I know there are no hotels out in the rural areas, so some of you might be staying in the urban areas, but you need to know how far all of these places are because believe it or not, especially when you go to Cambodia or Vietnam, they have a lot of people there. They have a lot of poor people there. And one of the places, if you're going to go out and you don't know anybody, where are you going to stay? Are these individuals going to trust you? You don't know. Now, again, traveling is good, gives you that experience. But know why you're going. I mean, you're looking for somebody traditional, make sure that the country, know the traditions of the country. Because people follow traditions. Unfortunately, America has been basically built off lies and deceit. It has. It has. And it's going to continue to be built on lies and deceit. But you know what? Some of these lies and deceit are going to the other countries. I mean, American dream is an American scheme because not everybody's going to live the American dream. It's not going to happen. You also have to be mature too, because here in America, the culture is immature. Immature, very delusional, very sensitive. I don't have that in countries like China or like Russia. And I've been to Russia. I haven't been to China, but been to Russia. Masculinity is pretty big over in Russia. Big over in China as well. Not here. But in other words, let me sum this up. You're going to go to another country, go over there acting like a fool. Use your passport wisely. And if you don't like what you are seeing, come on back. Because your real home is the United States of America. But if you're going to find somebody there, again, make sure you understand the culture, the customs, the language, history, the food, the religion, the currency, the weather, something else before I go. Understand the unit of measurement. Yeah, why do I say that? Because we use the old English system, inches, miles, feet. They're using kilometers. When it comes to temperature, they don't use Fahrenheit, they use Celsius. We're the only ones who do not use the metric system. It's very important that you know that. Like if you go get gas, they're not going to ask you how many gallons you're going to put in your car. It's how many liters you put in your car. They're going to ask you how many miles is this city from this city. It's going to be how many kilometers. These are very important aspects or very important. This is very important information that you need to know when you're overseas. And outside of that, keep your head on right and enjoy your passport. But be safe. You only live once. Traveling should be enjoyed. Shouldn't be about finding a wife first. Let that be on your list or put that at the bottom of the list. Just enjoy traveling. Why? Because traveling is peaceful. But know why you're doing it. Because it's also a big expense. And that's my commentary for this edition of the 411 Talk Zone radio show right here on YouTube. Like what I just presented, please comment, share, and subscribe. And if you are looking for some STEM content, you can check out the QCIS channel, also on YouTube. On that channel, I give you a daily dose of science, technology, engineering, and math. Now, if you cannot find the 411 Talk Zone radio show or the QCIS channel on YouTube, check both of those channels out on Twitter. And yes, before I go as well, you want more information? You don't have to listen to me. Get it from other people who have traveled overseas. They can give you some information as well. Because bottom line, again, I'm going to say this. I just want everybody to be safe when they travel. Because things can happen when you're traveling. You know, everything is not guaranteed in life. And you're responsible for your own safety. And I'm going to say this in the end. Be blessed for what you have. Don't worry about what you don't have. Always know that the sun rises in the east and sets in the west. And if it doesn't apply, let it fly. But if the shoe fits, wear it. If you don't like the shoe, change it. And once again, thank you for listening to this edition of the 401 Talk Zone radio show right here on YouTube. Till next time, my name is Leon Jones. I want you all to have a wonderful and gracious evening. God bless you. I'm out.